said dinner. And then 45 minutes later, and he started working again until 4:45. 5:30 check up, and then 9 p.m. lights out. So they got only 2 meals.
Breakfast and dinner.
Mm-hmm.
So up at 6 a.m, bed at 9, 2 meals, breakfast at 6:45, and dinner at 5:30. So they don't get a lot of time off, do they?
No, not at all. And then they got 2 meals. And at night they didn't have anything.
This was a prison cell. This is how big it was. This is actually, for one person, this is okay. Toilet. That's the toilet. One still. Bed. A more realistic cell. Probably would have been like back then. One little chair made of wood. Bucket for toileting. And that's about it. A few tools for work. Oh wow. So in some of these rooms they had 2 people. That's too small. Far too small. Not a lot of oxygen coming in here. It's pretty damp. A lot of these are the same. So I've just been informed that there were a lot of Germans put into this camp here, and during World War I, anyone who was German in the area was rounded up and brought to this camp and imprisoned as an intern or an internee. Basically, he's suggesting that they're internees just because they're German and living in Australia. I suppose the government it was fearful that they then would turn against the Australian people and the Australian government, so they imprisoned them here. What a way to go, hey? To take people living in your country from overseas and put them in prison because of their nationality. Jeez. The first prisoners arriving in 1886 were serious offenders brought here for hard labour. Once cell block B was complete, the serious offenders left trial bay. All licensed men slept in one to a cell in hammocks with cell doors locked and lights out at 9 p.m. In 1915, attorneys arrived to a series of stark empty buildings. Only the contents of their suitcases provided any comfort. So this is cell block A. Basically it. Cell block B. Basically the same, but without a big door. 120 prisoners fed steakhouse. So the bakery was in here. It's a photo from the times, 1915 and 1918. It's obviously wood-fired bakery. Sausage making in here. Unfortunately, none of that equipment's left. It's just the drainage here. What a view from a prison kitchen, eh? It's not actually that big. Oh wow, this is where people bathed. The bathhouse is large and roomy and are supplied with water from a reservoir in the hills. In fact, plenty of water is obtainable everywhere about the prison and outside buildings from the same source. This is from a sanitary point of view, is everything that can be desired. 10 baths served 582 internees. During the drought of 1915, each internee was allowed only 4 cups of water for washing, bathing and drinking per day. Wow. So this was a bath. And that's how close they all are together. So definitely no privacy here, but I suppose you're in prison, so that's to be expected. The 5 punishment cells were gloomy crypts into which light never penetrated. So this is solitary confinement, is it? Okay, so solitary confinement, just a tiny little window, but it's the same window as the other cells. So this door would have closed and it would have been completely dark in here, apart from that one little bit of light. It's quite a big cell for solitary confinement. I mean, no one wants to be in here, of course. But it's bigger than I expected it to be. So there's the solid door, an example of what they used. So the first one is this gated door, the second one's a solid door, and then this mechanism here. Interesting. Very interesting that they painted these white, yet made everything black. There's some of the tools that we used here. Obviously that's the old lock there, top left hand corner. And then the shackles. They don't look that strong. I guess modern tools would be able to break through those. But the tools back then, definitely not. And then the club by the prison wardens. The cat o' nine tails. Horrible mechanism or tool used to keep people in order. And badges and paraphernalia that the guards and police would be wearing back then. The original prison officers. Well, warden's bed. It's made of iron. Thin mattress goes on top of that. And the door to cell block B. So I was wrong. There were doors on there. This is an example of one of them. They've just replaced them with that little metal gate. Okay, then and now. Trial Bay Jail was established in the late 19th century as a public works prison built specifically to house end-of-term prisoners brought to build the Breakwater. So, 1874, Parliament votes to create the refuge for ships at Trial Bay. 77, contracts let to build prisons using paid labour. First intake of prisoners was in 86. 89, Breakwater construction begins. 90, severe storm caused washaways and major damage to the Breakwater. 1903, project abandoned, prison closed. My word, so the government has been pretty average since its inception in in Australia, and find that to be, well, just bizarre. Like, they put all this resources and money into building a breakwater here that then gets washed away, and then they give up. They just abandon the project in 1903. Then this place gets used as an internment camp or detention barracks. After the war, the camp was closed in 1918. 1922, the jail was stripped and abandoned. Then 1965, Trial Bay Reserve Trust established, and in 1995 the reserve becomes part of New South Wales National Parks estate. That's phenomenal. So basically, the government voted to set this up so they could build a breakwater here to make it safer for the ships to come through this area. And their first attempt at the breakwater failed, and they then suspended the project. So from 1874 to 1903, they put resources into this place, and then they just closed it down. Then they used it as a detention centre, an internment camp for foreigners, or Europeans, who were living in Australia. So they took them and they housed them here, basically in similar to jail-like circumstances. And then they abandoned the jail in 1922. What a waste of resources. No wonder our government can't get it right now. They couldn't get it right 200 years ago.